Okay. Hiya. What are the odds that people can hear me? We are, um, it's all right, John. What a scary thing. Um, are you hearing me, everyone? Hi, Hannah, but I don't know if it's ease. Oh, thank you, Diane. Appreciate that. Diane, how are you feeling today? First of all, um, hey, Paula. Nice to see you. Hey, Jay. All right. Yeah, it takes a while. Hey, salut, Michelle. Takes a while to learn the emojis on YouTube. Hi, Lynn. Hey, Pat. Nice to see you, Rosemary. Lovely to have you here. Great. Nice to have you. So I'm just no picture. Oh, that's yeah, John, that's how it works. So no, there's usually hey, Harriet. Hi there. I just thought I'd put on my lipstick, so I'm looking pretty for you before the tour. Hey, Chloe, nice to see you. Um, sir, nothing is working for you. That's because you have no employees. Um, I I would I would suggest standing on one foot and hopping, or if it's not working, hold an antenna in the air, um, or a spatula. That's how much. Um, that's, hi, Mary. That's how much I know all about this. Bonsoir, Nat. Hi, everyone. Hi, Suzanne. So it's lovely to have you here. Hi, Anna. There's my friend Anna. Shalom. Nice to see you, Anna. Um, Anna and I and a few of us, hi, Lorraine, will be putting up tours on another platform fairly soon, just so you know. Thanks, Marsha. I'm going to keep Donna. I'll keep doing the YouTube live for a lot of reasons. One, it's a way. Um, Oh, I am camping, Hannah. Just so it makes a way of engaging people without any cost. Hey, Jolene. But of course, should you want to or wish to or can afford to contribute, I'm not going to spill the beans. No, beans are very sticky, Paula, and I don't like beans. They say eat more beans. Canada needs a gas. Um, but uh, but I will. People are wondering, yeah, if I'm camping, and I am. This is where I'm staying. I got kicked out of the hotel apparently for lewd behavior. I don't know what that means. Actually, I am over on the west side of downtown Ottawa here. But yeah, say if you're in a position ever to contribute, number two me to me dot travel is my website. But when Finn gets home, we're gonna send out a Patreon account. So I think we're going to go that route. But you know what? Too much bright. Like I stayed up watching my kid cook kangaroo last night, which was which she was bounding through the tour. Um, I kept a little bit in my pouch, but actually, because I was with our friends Robert and Louise today, they made cookies. See, so I have cookies in my pouch, which is pretty nice. So if you'd like to share a biscuit with me, you're allowed to. So all that noted, everyone. Couple of other updates, and then we'll get into having a fun little tour. Oh, Natalie, I know it sounds awful and it tastes awful too. I'm a bison guy. They're not hash cookies. I really, really don't do drugs. Yeah, real burgers. You love cookies, Beauty. So, um, here we are, and I'm in Ottawa on a gorgeous, gorgeous sunny day. I wish I could embed photos, but it's easy to go on. A couple of other things, though. A few of us are having conversations all the time. Um, is that right, Cindy? I don't know any of the answers. You know what? Once we learned on the chat, it actually is pretty good. It's good for me. It's on the left, not the right, but that's okay because that's my political side. But I am down behind the Canadian Museum of War. I actually just sent a couple of pictures to Mark in Amsterdam because it was showing the way the Canadian soldiers landed in Juneau and went up towards the Netherlands. And my Canadian grandfather, was part of that. So it's an impressive museum. Although my group are young Canadians from Saskatoon, and when I say young, I mean they're kind of 13 years old, so they're big subjects to tackle. I started to talk about genocide with them today, but out in the distance is of course Parliament Hill, from a whole different view there. Isn't that nice, Lynn? Um, well, I never had a Hago hat. And that's not true, actually. I had a Hago too. But we're on YouTube. We're on this, you know, monolithic or megalithic site here, whatever the term is. Um, and so it is a pretty significant thing. But remember the other day, if you joined me for a walk here in beautiful Ottawa, I brought my bodyguards along, and there they are again. Same two. I can tell for sure it's the same two. Um, and you cannot take pictures that way, John. No, but there they are. See. So if this is actually, it's appropriate to have these right by the Canadian War Museum because, of course, this is the Canadian Air Force right there, which is quite different from the Royal Canadian Air Farce, which my Canadians on board will know what I'm talking about. And if you don't, hey, Melissa, nice to see you. So I thought I'd walk out here, and then I'm going to wander around. We're going to touch one slightly heavier subject today, but I thought I'd bring you out here. What a gorgeous day! Do you know I had lunch with some of the Hago friends, and then I actually ran into friends in the Byward Market, people I actually genuinely know, and then of course then I get scolded for not telling them I was in town. But you know what? You always got to pick your battles, don't you? So I am trudging. I have nice shoes on. See this? And I'm trudging through the snow out here because, well, we always have snow. Actually, I love this particular map. Gives you a sense where the Rideau comes in from one side and the Gatineau comes in from the other. So um, that is so true, Melissa. There's never enough time. Do you know I actually had a slight moment this morning when I woke up and I was super tired. Of course, I stayed up much later for Finn's tour last night, and I thought to myself, now that things are closing down, maybe I'll just say goodbye to the whole virtual thing. But then I thought to myself, I've spent so much time on this in such a community that I won't. I have never had Indian food in Byward. But here we are. This is the history of lumber here. So I won't, Ruth, but I just had this moment of thinking, well, was it really worth all the work? But all of you are worth the work. So the early Laurentian forest here, old growth forest. This is very much, if it weren't the story of the fur trade. Lynn, I'm not a fibber. I genuinely had that thought, um, but la naissance d'une industrie nationale. So lumber, of course, is a huge part of the industry here across Canada, and it's amazing to think. But part of the industry here, Rosemary, I'm not going to. I just had this moment of thinking, you know what? This is a chance to take a break, but I don't want to, and I was glad I had put this up to have a visit with everyone, and we're all building a community. I think part of it is last night I was looking through all the different tours on, and I thought I didn't want to trip over. I would have put up, an almost final Hago here. Um, and I just thought I don't want to overlap with people. And I thought, well, I'll put one of these up. So this is so interesting. These particular Laurentian forests, now these are deciduous forests, generally speaking, rather than pine forests. It's very important. And that is because this was the source of wood for the British Navy. Remember, it was for about 150 years. Hello, Barnett Monique. It was the largest navy in the world, and of course, Britain ruled the seas and that sort of thing. Marsha, I'm not going to leave. I just had a moment of it. I just thought I'd share that, but I don't want to keep going on. But the huge straight logs were what they used to build the masts on the ships, and that is what really spurred settlement into the interior, because otherwise everything was along waterways. But they moved in further where larger trees formed. And so you can tie that right down to the fact that Britain had been virtually or veritably deforested with war after war after war after war, and they had to come over and get this fabulous wood here, but floating on the Ottawa River. And there are subducted logs out here on the river that they pull up 300-year-old logs or 200-year-old logs, and you can actually make hardwood floors out of it. But look at this gorgeous system out here. Now, how this city is changing. Obviously, we're in the Lebanon Flats down here, or Le Breton Flats, excuse me. This is the old sort of industrial part of Ottawa, and of course, Ottawa's always been a smaller capital city. Often, people around the world ask if Toronto's the capital of Canada or something, but no, it is Ottawa here, and this is des Outaouais, the whole system through here. But look at that ice all piled up. Isn't it just gorgeous? But what a change going on now in the old industrial areas. Have a look at these fantastic new buildings coming up. I'm a huge fan, I must admit, I think you got everything downloaded. So I've had the help from one very, very dear friend downloading some of my past tours, gradually releasing them on YouTube. Although I might save some for when I do Patreon, as a thank you to people. I don't know. I still have to work all that out. I'm too busy, for doing too much more planning at the moment. It's more just to keep engaged with everyone. Hi, Margaret. Nice to see you. Tremblay. But I just want to come out here for a minute because this ice coming down here is fantastic. This is a whole part of the system here. Again, everything around Ottawa in terms of colonial history was, hi, Tina, was built around the fact. Sorry, it is a little windy and I don't have a toque on. So if it gets too windy, I can turn my back. But the ice is just so gorgeous to see. But the Ottawa River actually has class 5 rapids out here, which are pretty fantastic. So, but let's just go up to the middle, and then I'm actually going to come back. I'm going to walk the other way. But look at the views down towards Parliament Hill. So I'm west of downtown here. I'm on the Ontario and Ottawa side of the river. But have a look. Isn't that just fantastic? Now I can do a zoom for you, but what a great view with the reflections. Oh, these are massive rapids, absolutely. And so you've got the Gatineau River coming down from the north, the Rideau coming up from the south, and then all of this. And remember, this is all just a tributary of the St. Lawrence River. But there's a nice zoom, and I'm really, really happy with the zoom here on YouTube Live. So it's pretty neat to see. There's the library at the back of Parliament, of course. We were in Parliament this morning. I must admit, as much as we can all be critical of our own governments, and we should be, it's pretty nice. Sorry, I just called somebody. It's pretty nice to live in a society that's so democratic. It is, Marlene, so democratic. I went in, of course, I have such a big group. I have 54. They had to split them into 3. And I said, well, we have another tour. It's like, oh, well, we'll just start earlier. No worries. It's nice to have that. It reminded me of an experience I had in Asuncion in Paraguay once. A fascinating country, not a country I fell in love with, but fascinating. And I always take tours of government buildings anywhere I go in the world. And the one in Asuncion in Paraguay, I went up, and this guy with a gun looked at me and said, "Are you ridiculous? You cannot have me a tour of this." And actually, even in Singapore, I wasn't able to. Now, there's a little bit of graffiti over here, which I never like, but you see the chunks of ice being filtered through. Um, and this is where they used to lead down, use the water. Well, they slowed it down to move the rocks. In fact, let's just have, it's so much construction. I didn't think I could come over here, but I think I will. We'll go out to this point and then we'll turn around and walk up back towards town. So anyway, it's lovely to have everyone here. I like the fact that we've got these 2 caution attention signs right here, right after I've gotten away from all the ice and snow. That's a little bit the wrong way around. But for anyone who is coming in a little later, it's lovely to have you. The only reason my hood's up is I'm not cold, but it's windy. Hi, Satyam. Nice to see you there. Like I say, if we're going to come up with a much more sustainable model, I want to offer a very, very warm thank you to those of you who have already put up regular donations to our site, and that is very kind of you. Say we'll develop a Patreon, but I'm not in a rush really, which is a pretty spoiled thing to say. I'm not in a real rush from a financial point of view. It's just how we're going to move forward. So really, what I'm asking all of you is just keep playing all the YouTubes we get of those thousands of hours. That's a cool emoji, yeah. So it's really from that point of view. So let's wander out to this point out here, and then we'll turn around. So we're going to look out towards Kanata and, of course, this developing tech sector. I mean, Ottawa's always just been a capital city. I shouldn't say just, but been a capital city. These are Algonquin or Anishinaabe lands for literally thousands of years. I just love these ice flows down here this time of year. Isn't it gorgeous? I know that. I absolutely know you are. But like I said the other day, and I keep repeating it, I think it's important. I know so many people with the changing virtual platforms are a little bit panicked. Um, it is so beautiful, Melissa. That is Takara, the Iroquois word meaning light glistening on water. Um, but everyone's a little panicked, and I'm very, very sympathetic to so many of my friends who are struggling. Again, I'm in my kind of busy high tourist season, so really, this is a time of year I tend to squeeze in virtual tours. But heck, we'll keep it all going. I saw a question flick by about the number of hours. When you're on these live tours with me, it does tick away. But again, I mean, I'm a long way away from getting the kind of formal thing. Um, it's I have to Joan, that's the PayPal. There's a custom link on my website. Isn't it? It's beautiful buildings out here. And it's interesting, Harriet. I'm not going to be back here this summer. So everyone, I think many of you know Harriet, who's my friend and a brilliant guide in Uganda, and of course, very very green country. If you're here in the summer, so right now it's about 6 or 7 degrees here. It's a lovely temperature. It was meant to be -11 overnight, and it just wasn't. It was way warmer this morning. But all that noted, I have been here to Ottawa in the summertime. It has been over 40 degrees Celsius. Remember, we're at the same latitude as far southern France here. It's just we have the continental effect. And there is a little sparrow nest right up in that tree that'll be hidden away afterwards. Um, well, at the end of the day, I would rather grow it very honestly, organically. Sorry, I'm trying to look where someone's fishing. I didn't see someone fishing. I think it just looks maybe like, but I'd like to grow it organically the way we did on the other platform on Hago. We grew it in this nice organic move and had a great big following. Isn't it lovely to stream at your TV? Absolutely right. So so if we were we'll be in the 30s tomorrow. Celsius, that's hot. So if we were to cut right through the back of, and there's the Canadian War Museum, but I thought we would head over. I don't want to focus just on negative things, but I'm so close to the National Holocaust Monument. I feel as though I need to take everyone over there because every time I come to this part of the city, I go and visit that. And that's always a heavier conversation. But then you see, of course, the big downtown, the very, very boring architecture that you have in kind of the central downtown, yet Parliament Hill. Can you imagine what it would be like? You've seen two robins, that's lovely. Um, you imagine what it was like when they chose this as the capital of the country? There was a smaller version of Rideau Hall where the Governor General of Canada lives. And then they said, okay, we're going to go build a town right by, or a capital right by the locks. Um, and so Ottawa was thrilled because they locked up their role as the capital city. But that's because we're wedged right between, of course, Upper and Lower Canada. Upper Canada is the province of Ontario, Lower Canada, province of Quebec, and that's the lower reaches of the mighty St. Lawrence River. And when I say mighty, it is incredible. I've uh, I, I've had some really spectacular views many, many times in Quebec City, where you see, and of course, Quebec means where the river narrows in the Algonquin language. And I mean, that is fascinating because all of this water that's around me here flows out into that direction, you know, and eventually out the Gulf of St. Lawrence, where, of course, you have the island of Prince Edward Island, the island of Ile Royale, or Cape Breton, Cap Breton, and, of course, Newfoundland and Labrador, as well as a whole myriad of other islands, well, including as well Saint Pierre et Miquelon, which are the little tiny two French islands that go back basically to the Treaty of Paris, 1763, when France ceded all of their holdings here in New France to the British. How much would it be? Margaret, a monthly donation, if you can make it somewhere around $10,000 or $12,000, that would be ideal. Um, because that would cover mostly my taste in caviar and really fine wine. Um, and of course, my addiction to bicycles. Um, I, I honestly, I honestly don't know what I think we're gonna do. Mark, look at this lovely flames. What Finn has come up with as an idea for Patreon is to have a sort of tiered system. Um, Ben oui, je suis fou. If you could do that, John, that'd be great. Um, yeah, I mean, we're gonna try and do a Patreon account that's as low as it's accessible for everyone. And then the problem is with that, to make it work, we have to have tiered benefits. So we would get to some number where you'd, even if you wanted, would have a private call or a private tour with one of us every month. Um, I would hold off though, Margaret, and a direct answer to your question, because soon Anna and I and and just some of the guides that I know all of you follow are going to be on a new website, um, where, but it's one where we have to charge for the tours, and there would be some costs for us because of the streaming costs. Um, and so let's just wait. And it's very kind of you to be all supportive. In the short term right now, Finn was such a professional last night when when the app collapsed on him and he reposted it. And then through, because I get, of course, the donations, but people donated over $100 to him last night. So thank you very much. Thank you. Now it does, let's be honest, does tend to be the same people. But right now, I know it's a real hassle to go into the website. So just please don't lose a lot of sleep about that. And I don't really want to just talk about money with all of you, but I'll do a newsletter. Have a look at that lovely reflection. I know it's an old storehouse, but I just love those reflections. See, we could be walking along a canal here. Um, Margaret, I I do know. I'm just not going to announce it yet because they had approached a group of us, and we thought we'd launch it all at the same time. And we've all been contacted by dozens. What my thinking is, for what it's worth, um, no, Patreon, Marcia, is a way of sponsoring people. Many of the popular YouTubers use Patreon. It's a gorgeous day here. So, and it's warmer and warmer and warmer, Chloe. So that's just, a basic sense of that. So because YouTube pays so little on its own that it's almost irrelevant. It's more just the ability to use this platform. And you know what? What wonderful they put the technology in place. So over there, those buildings in the distance, that is what was formerly Hull, Quebec, but that is Gatineau, which three municipalities came together, and that is the province of Quebec right over there. And it was funny, we actually had a good conversation about driving over the interprovincial bridge and saying, is this the only place you drive a bridge between provinces? But of course not, because if you go to the Maritimes, of course, you drive on a bridge to get to Prince Edward Island. And then we've been working long and hard on developing the famous Mexi-Canada Bridge, where we'll be able to drive straight from Canada to Puerto Vallarta in Mexico. Wouldn't that be fun? So we have a lot of plans around that as a long-term development goal as well in this part of the world, so that we don't have to fly for our carbon footprints, but we can go down to the beach. That was after Marjorie Taylor Greene said that Canada's helping Mexico invade Canada or invade the States. Like, I love the US. I love going down there, but I don't really want to invade it. You know? So let's go and be real rebels. They give tickets in Ottawa for jaywalking, so I am really like pushing the boundary here. But I would like I would like to curve around here, and this is probably the clearest I've ever shown it to you. This large cement formation out here is the National Holocaust Monument in Canada. And Canada has the third largest Jewish population in the world. Um, the term Holocaust is a much newer term than many people are aware of. But uh, but again, I'm not particularly on just a YouTube live having a chat like this. I don't want to climb into everything. I am a rebel, Money, but but of course, it's very significant because Canada had its own fascist party through the 20s and 30s, led principally by Adrian Arcand. But you can find, of course, even our beautiful province of Saskatchewan had the most members of the KKK north of, I don't know, the Mason Dixon line or something. So let's be honest about some of that racism. The Jewish presence in this country goes right back to the colonial days. Interestingly enough, probably via the British military. Um, but but the fascist movement in this country basically said, because of course the writing was on the wall, what was happening in Central and Eastern Europe, and Adrian Arcand and so forth published these newspapers back then saying, "Oh, we can't let the Jews come in because it wouldn't be good for them." That was the argument at the time. So that ever so nice kind of Canadiana culture that we seem to be so proud of was really focused on the fact of keeping it exclusive and, let's be very honest, Catholic, right? So let's be very honest about that. By the way, I want to come back to the monument, but um, there are, it's spring as well when all the geese are out here. Oh, now my Zoom, all of a sudden, everyone, there it is. There's all the geese out there. Um, oh, it's unbelievable what it's again, this country did did racism very, very well. Um, Remember, the first women elected anywhere in the British Empire, and the first magistrate in the British Empire, female magistrate, published a book saying they have to expel all the Chinese from this country. Um, and of course, as some people, I think, often the people who point this out are not necessarily allies, but the Holocaust, whilst specifically targeting Jews of Europe, of course, had to go with all sorts of other populations as well. Once you get into eradicating the unwanted or the undesirable, it's amazing how that's a slippery slope, which is part of the reason that we all have to continuously remind ourselves to stand up for human rights whenever we butt our heads against it. Um, Karkin, in memory, I'm not sure about that, but let's come in here now. Now, keep an eye on this, everyone, because I have had some reception issues in here, and I haven't tried it on YouTube. I do obviously have now a video from here. The last time I did this, it was really quite heavy weather. So there we are. So some of the good things about this monument specifically is the person who championed it, Member of Parliament for Edmonton Centre South, Tim Uppal, was a Conservative Member of Parliament, and he was the first, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, the first elected Sikh to the Canadian Parliament, and felt that it was absolutely vital to have a monument like this in the capital, and so championed it. Although it was a student from the University of Ottawa, but I think it as a private member's bill, I think it's really important. And one thing I try and do, acknowledging all the privilege that I have had in my life, um, it was it's important to advocate even for the groups that you're not um, necessarily connected with. All right, that's kind of what human rights look like. Um, it's funny, many of you know that I am really not a person of faith, and I'm really not a person of faith, but I read recently one of the stories. Well, I follow a few Instagram pages that talk about, of course, the period of the Holocaust and the persecution of the Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, I would not say I'm a huge fan of their faith, but goodness me, they rounded them up and killed them and starved them to death. Like, let's be honest, right? The fact that that's their belief system. So it is. So I'm not going to do the whole thing today. This is a much longer and important tour, but I just thought I would come in here because it's part of the city, and of course on a fine day like this, um, there's a lot to be talked about here. So I'm glad this monument is here, and I'm glad this monument is right across from the Canadian Museum of War, because most Canadians, one way or another, consider themselves very, very proud that Canada started the international peacekeeping. And I am proud of that. I mean, I'm very disappointed that we haven't lived up to our obligations there. I am, and I know not everyone is. I'm a huge believer in the United Nations, not necessarily how it is structured, but we need to have these conversations as a world. Um, and if we don't, if we get locked down into what you historically called tribalism, um, then we're done for. I mean, we are in an international environmental crisis. And so when we talk about there's all the provinces and territories of Canada right there. So we are obviously the second largest territory, jurisdictional country in the world. I'd never call this a nation. Um, with a really rather small population, but disparate political views and identities. But the whole point about that is its diversity and unity. And that's, I'm willing to go. I hope I'm not being at all provocative about this. This is how we have to see the world for all sorts of obvious reasons. So this is the back of the monument. Now, there's a lot to show you around here, but there are some big distances. Really, what I want to do sometime when I have more time in Ottawa is go over and take you through Little Italy, because there is a Little Italy. Remember, until about the 1980s, the third most spoken language in this country was actually Italian. Now it's Chinese and then Punjabi, obviously English first and then French. But really, and I love these statistics, right? Roughly, I'm not going to be back here all year, back here to Ottawa. I travel a little bit. But yeah, in the morning, always love this sort of story. In the morning, I will about 51% of Canadians, 50% roll out of bed and go, good morning. About 23% roll over and say bonjour. And then now I think it's 6 or 7% will speak Chinese, and then Punjabi. 4 to 6% of Canadians are Indigenous based on different measures, Métis. So Italian has faded, not the Italian presence, but the Italian language spoken. Although big Italian community, so I'm going to switch around. I know it's not very exciting, but here we go. Um, but big Italian community right down around where Casey is, down in that Niagara Falls area. But also, I had no idea, but I actually had lunch in Little Italy in Winnipeg, and it was nice. I mean, it was a real Little Italy. And then I had, and of course, Edmonton has a large Italian population, still speaking, and an excellent Italian market. So come up here, look at this little park in here. It is just gorgeous, and it's written in 3 languages, living well. So this is the Anishinaabe First Nation. So these are the as Finn would say, the initial custodians of this land right here. Um, and this park was developed in collaboration with local Anishinaabe communities of Kitikin, Zibi Anishinaabe, and Algonquins of Piwakakan. Both communities are part of the greater nation. And isn't it gorgeous to see? And this again, as a country that is guilty of not founding itself in partnership so much as colonization, I think it's very good to have a longer conversation with the indigenous custodians of this land, who, incidentally, it's not ancient history, they live here. um, and of course, languages are coming back. Isn't it nice to see a bear, Lorraine? It's to see how easy it is to actually get used to this platform. So it's pretty fun. Susan, you're going to Edmonton? Look at that beaver, right? There's our national animal. You may all have really proud animals, but we picked a rodent. But at least our animal gives a damn. So, Susan, you're going to Edmonton. That is fantastic. There's a pileated woodpecker up top there, which are so. Susan, cuando vas a Edmonton, if you need any Edmonton ideas or advice, send me a message through my website. It's super easy. By the way, if I sometimes don't get back to you, it's because I'm getting a huge amount of spam through my website as well. Um, but generally, I can filter out when it's someone. Look at that. Traveling by canoe, of course, which is the true Turtle Island. Sorry, Casey. The true Turtle Island form of transport, the birch bark canoe, and birch trees were fantastic for transport because not only do you not have to kill the tree, you can actually get the sap out and use it like glue. But then, of course, everything freezes over, so you settle down and have a nice family with a nice winter time with your family, and of course, several towns, both in this country and down in the States, where towns that are named Portage or Portage, the main street there in Winnipeg, Portage in Maine or Portage in Maine, and that's carrying the canoe over the rapids. Lovely, civilized way to travel, and really rather efficient. The big voyageurs, the big canoes that hold about 20 people, when they would travel upstream, so up the big rivers, they would hug the coastline. They could still cover about 30 kilometers in the day. So that is pretty remarkable distance. Um, do you must, yeah, please do. It is very hard work. Oh, Portage, well, yeah. And it's out where I live, it got so hard that that's why they set up Fort Jasper because they couldn't paddle up any further. There we are in Turtle Island, ladies and gentlemen. Um, Hi, Cynthia. So pretty spectacular. So I think we should go over see a couple more animals and then we'll loop around. You see, you didn't believe me, but my bodyguards are with me the whole way along. There they are. See the two of them? Just keeping an eye on me. They're pretending they're not working when they're eating, but that's just keeping their heads down. And then if someone comes and tries to attack me, they swoop in, which is pretty fantastic. I like these new apartments. We have such an incredible shortage of housing in this country that it is a huge issue. Aguila. Um, they are vicious, Marlene, and they're not very tasty. But sometimes you can be a little gullible around here. Um, Look at you. We are still, by the way, over 1,000 kilometers. Really, no kidding. Really from the ocean. Um, Salt water it starts to get brackish just after Quebec, so which is about 500 kilometers here. So the mighty moose, of course, the great animal of the north and of the water. It is an aquatic animal, lives with a symbiotic relationship with beavers, which is pretty neat. Um, but I'm just going to cut over let. See, there's still big piles of snow around. But what a difference when you have a beautiful blue sky and you get to embrace your environment. But I want to go over to the monument to firefighters as well, which is neat to see. So I do get statistics, by the way, at the end of the tours, and it is interesting, obviously, because this is truly live, and I think because I have the kind of requisite 1,000 followers, but I'm not monetized, so people can jump in and out. So it'll show how many people I've had over time, but I'm sure some of them come in and see 5 seconds and flick on. Um, Maybe I should start doing these lives, with my shirt off in a speedo, and then people will come to watch a train wreck. Um, you know, but it is interesting because it's truly open that way. But the trick is to bring in. It is a gorgeous day, and it's actually warm enough now, and not too windy. I find the wind always a little bit hard to take around here. Um, that's so. Here is a monument to firefighters, and of course, when you build your whole country out of wood. All right, quiz question, everyone. What significant country, in terms of a large area where fires matter, what country has still only a volunteer fire force? Um, it's a genuine question. Can you imagine? Yeah, what country only has a, not Canada? No, no, they're paid, depending where some of the towns are. So it isn't. It's not Spain. No, Donna. It's not Australia, and they have horrendous fires. It's not Iceland. No, and Iceland wouldn't have a lot of fires because there's no wood. No, I don't know how the Irish system works. It's not the States. No, Susan. Um, but not Greece. No. It's interesting. I'll give you the answer in a second. No, still not Iceland. Yeah, but volcanoes tend to be. So the monument dedicated to all Canadian firefighters who serve their communities and honors names who have died in the line of duty. Not Norway, although I honestly don't think I can answer that question to you. Not the Netherlands. No, it's a country that I have a lot to do with, and a lot of you don't seem to. Um, where everyone gets raked to rake the floor. Not Ecuador, Saragossa. A good one. All right, everyone, you ready for this? But it'll make sense. Not Bolivia, no. It is Chile. And Chile has the second most active tectonic movement in the world after Indonesia. They have a huge number, of course, of major events, major earthquakes. So the La República de Chile, and everything in the southern half of Chile is built with wood. And so therefore it plays, yep. And it has actually become a big conversation in Chile because it's a wealthy country and it's a well overall little military but well-run country. Whether after they had their latest rounds of earthquakes, whether it should be turned into an official force. So very important. But yes, people have uniforms and badges in Chile. Yeah, and so, but again, southern Chile. I mean, it shakes and moves all the time. Biggest earthquake in modern history was just off the island of Chiloé, Valdivia in 1960. It was probably a 9.6 or 9.8. And of course, tsunamis come in, but then of course, when everything's wood, they catch on fire. So yeah, so the Chilean force. But of course, when you're in a country like this, which is so massive, obviously you're you have so many of the national monuments here. So there is. I don't know if you can see it. When I'm called to duty, God, whenever flames may rage, give me strength to save a life, whatever be its age. So Much like California, but even more intense, Diane, really, truly. And Santiago actually has an excellent and a really genuinely excellent subway system, which is impressive given, of course, it's a major tectonic zone as well. So the firefighter's prayer, isn't it lovely? So, so ladies and gentlemen, listen, thank you for coming for a meaningful walk with me. I'll wander up a little bit more, but it's a big gap before I get to another interesting park, particularly this time of year. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be getting back to O Town anytime soon, although I always end up down here a lot. So I'm off to Quebec tomorrow, the capital of the province of Quebec, and of course, a beautiful city. I'm hoping to catch up. For sure, I'm going to catch up with our friend Sam. I don't know if I'll get him on a screen, but I would love to. Thanks, Chloe. Thanks for buying me a coffee. If you know what, Chloe, if you're really going to go all out, you could take me across the road there to the Mill Street Brew Pub and buy me a beer. um, but we all it's actually a really nice pub down. I don't even know if it's open right now. You're welcome. I'm glad to have a walk with all of you. I want to give you a warm and friendly thank you once again for supporting. Well, thank you, Eileen. It's a bit of a process. I'm really just, and I know, thank you, all of you who have been making donations, but also don't feel obliged now. Do feel obliged longer term, right? Like, I know some people, personally who are in rather precarious situations, and if you can't afford it, I don't want your money. Um, but, um, but those who can, obviously, it helps. Moi, j'adore le Québec. Um, and so we're going to find ways. So, I'll start putting up hopefully sooner than later tours where, it's like the minimum price will be $4, but that's easy. And then when then we can set up. So it's all right. Um, but that's Diana. We had lunch. Diana, Robert, and Louise. And yes, we broke greens. We had salads. Yeah, so I didn't break bread, but it was lovely. So listen, peace and love, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just gonna get across the street here. That's all under construction over there. But I'll give you another. Well, thank you, Michelle. Oops, there's a lot of cars. Um, and it is effort, but it's worth it. You're a real community, and you matter to me, to us. And I'm going to get Finn Toomey out on these things. Although I just get Finn on this YouTube channel, you see, and we'll do some live tours that way. And then hopefully I can even share it. I can't really share it internationally, but that's another conversation. But because it signs in through my Gmail, oddly enough, the guys with the biggest money in the world have been able to kind of lock things down. But I'm always here for any good guides who are on our side. And for my friends, they're welcome to, of course, use my social media to promote their own things. On the other hand, I'm not so keen on people sneaking in to promote other people without permission, but that's another conversation for another day. So, all right. Seems to have been about 50 of us hanging out for 45 minutes. So that's wonderful. Hey, big hugs all around. Thank you. Now, be prepared. I was told this by several people. When I end this, it ends kind of aggressively, right? Like when I touch the button, it's like boom. So I don't know if it's now. Oh, I was want to say. So, are you sure you want to stop